Good evening and welcome to this broadcast. You're welcome to Prime Edition. We give you a 360 degrees coverage of what has been happening across the country. And of course, later we speak to the Principal Secretary in charge of Labour and Skills Development, Geoffrey Kaituku. Let's just look at the state of labour in the country. That happens later. Here are tonight's highlights. Kenya Kwanza dismisses Azimio's Kofi Annan-like talks proposal as its MPs threaten to petition the International Criminal Court. 170 million shillings in the net worth of Bishop Oginde, the man soon to head the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. And thumbs up to Kenyans in diaspora as President Ruto lauds their contribution to national development. And Wangeshi's sign language interpreter tonight. My name is John Jacob Kioria. Welcome to the broadcast. At least 2 persons have been killed and 2 others severely injured in a banditry attack in Samburu West constituency. No livestock was stolen in the attack that happened on Tuesday night amid a military operation in the North Rift. The insecurity situation is similar in neighboring Laikipia County, where a section of residents staged demonstrations outside the Laikipia County Commissioner's office following increased banditry attacks.
Residents of Lolmolog and Kosoro villages in Samburu West are living in fear after bandits struck on Tuesday night, killed at least 2 persons and injured another 2. Families of the victims trying to come to terms with the loss of their loved ones.
Brother yangu aliuliwa na wakora. Sasa tumeshindwa hao wakora ni aina gani? Wala singine wanaua watu, haendi na mifugo.
In the neighboring Elgeyo Marakwet County, at least 3 people are receiving treatment at Iten Referral Hospital after they were shot by bandits while herding cattle in Aror Ward. The communities in Aror Ward are now planning to hold demonstrations on Thursday to demand enhanced security in the area.
Tutaandamana kesho Aror, na naona hatuoni maana ya askari huko tena. Si tunaambia serikali mchukue askari wote kwetu kwa sababu hawatusaidii.
Across the border in Laikipia County, angry residents led by Laikipia North MP Sarah Korere camped at county commissioners' offices complaining of increased cases of insecurity in the county.
All our askari mnatuletea doldo. Kama kazi ni kukimbizana na vijana ya bodaboda. Vijana bodaboda sio tisho kwa usalama kwetu. Kama kazi ni kufukusana na malori ya mchanga. Malori ya mchanga sio security threat kwetu. Kama hiyo ndio kazi tuliletewa polisi wafanye, tafadhali waondoe.
The Laikipia residents say more National Police Reservists are yet to be deployed as promised by Interior Cabinet Secretary Professor Kithure Kindiki. In Nairobi, over 20 MPs from North Rift region met to strategize on how to restore calm in their counties. Led by SACU legislator Dido Raso, the MPs called on the communities in the north to cease fire and allow the area leadership and the government to find a lasting solution.
That we don't want to support any criminals, gangs or groups.
We are asking our people to cease fire and to stop any further attacks amongst ourselves as we engage the government to find lasting solutions to the problems that we face.
The increased cases of insecurity continue to worry residents of the North Rift despite the ongoing military operation in the area. Rishok Washira, Prime Edition.
And President Dr. William Ruto has lauded the critical role played by Kenyans in diaspora in national development. Addressing Kenyans living in Rwanda on Wednesday in Kigali as he wrapped up his 2-day state visit to the country, President Ruto urged them to be good ambassadors of Kenya.
Morning, how are you?
President William Ruto has wrapped up his 2-day state visit to Rwanda, where he met with his Rwandan counterpart Paul Kagame. The head of state on Wednesday addressed Kenyans living in Rwanda. President Ruto said the government attaches great importance to its citizens living abroad and appreciates the close bonds they maintain with their motherland.
We position our country as a hub for manufacturing, for IT technology, and many other things. And for us to effectively do that, we need you guys in the diaspora to continue to be good ambassadors for Kenya, so that everybody, anywhere in the world, can know that if this gentleman or this lady comes from Kenya and we can see her work is outstanding, Kenya must be a place that I can invest in.
President Ruto added that Rwanda and Kenya enjoy warm and cordial relations, especially in various fields, including education, ICT, and agriculture, among other areas.
As we develop these units, be ready to be able to buy those units. And we are going to make mortgage available so that you don't have to get all the money at once.
The diaspora is part of Kenya. You may be away from Kenya, but you're part of Kenya, and we care about you. And the reforms that we have undertaken and everything we're doing is to make your life easier. We want to make our embassies friendlier. We want to make our embassies a point you can go to and get all your problems solved, so that when you're out of the country, you know you're not alone and you can count on us. But even more so, we want to make you business people. We'd like you to trade. We want you to invest.
Ruto said his visit to Rwanda is part of making Africa work together because it is a big market.
All right. Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission Chairperson nominee Bishop David Oginda says he will employ a top-down method in fighting corruption in the country. Oginda, who appeared before the Parliamentary Justice and Legal Affairs Committee for vetting, said he will not fear holding to account individuals involved in high-level corruption. Oginda, who is the immediate former presiding Bishop of Christ, is the Answer Ministry Sitam, revealed that his net worth is 170 million shillings.
As the process to fill the vacant chairperson position at the country's anti-graft body continues,
thank you very much.
The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission Chair nominee Bishop David Oginde appeared before the National Assembly Committee to defend his suitability to restore Kenya's trust in the institution.
Bearing in mind that corruption is a source of our poverty in this country, what is the silver bullet are you going to apply in the Anti-Corruption Authority?
Is a cultural change. And how do we hope to bring about this cultural change, as we talked about champions? And we as a commission to work with that person in the area that they are in to help them to accomplish whatever it is that they set out to do. So that is that silver bullet.
The immediate former presiding bishop at Christ is the Answer Ministries also told the committee that there is a lacuna in the law.
With so many people empowered to do different things in this fight, sometimes the rat, if I call it rat, escapes.
Supposing you are completely convinced that somebody is guilty and somebody has robbed this country, but then he goes to the next level because you don't prosecute yourself and the charges are withdrawn against that person. Would you now take the moral authority yourself, unless to help this country, and resign from your position and say,
yes, I would be very ready to resign if I find that the efforts that we are making, Kenyans, and I say Kenyans, I don't mean just leaders, but we as Kenyans are committed that this is our way of life and we do not want to move away from it. But I will not resign simply because certain powers that be have taken a certain position, because that will be surrendering to the dragon.
If approved, Oginda will be replacing Eliud Wabukala, whose tenure expired mid-January. Kamchemenza for Prime Edition.
As Kamche says, Bishop Oginde, of course, awaits the approval of Parliament as the next anti-graft czar. We will be up for that story, of course, when Parliament does that. It's time for us to take our first breather on Prime Edition, but just a reminder that after sports, we'll be engaging the Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Labour and Skills Development, Geoffrey Kaituko, who is already in studio. But for now, we're taking a breather. Don't go too far.
Biggest odds in the world every day on selected matches. Make a decision. Mozart Bet.
Welcome back. Members of Parliament allied to Kenya Kwanza have rubbished calls by Azimio leader Raila Odinga to frame the anticipated bipartisan talks akin to the Kofi Annan negotiated national accord. The leaders at the same time said they will petition the International Criminal Court (ICC) to open an investigative file on the opposition chief, whom they accuse of using mass protests to force a coalition government. A day after Azimio leader Raila Odinga revealed that the opposition has little trust in Parliament and is seeking an accord similar to the one negotiated after the post-election violence in 2008, Kenya Kwanza allied MPs led by Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah dismissed Raila's statement as self-seeking.
Na tunataka tumwambie Raila, hatuna shida na wewe kuandamana. Andamana kila siku. Bora tu unaandamana kwa amani.
Hatutaki vita, tunahitaji heshima. Mtusikize na sisi tutawasikiza. Hiyo timu iko tayari. Mkiwa tayari mtuambie.
We as a country, we are not a junta state. We are not a military state where you go and count and say, I have 50 people, you have 60, so I must have a part of the government. No.
The MPs claim they have drafted a request to the International Criminal Court to be deliberated next week in Parliament, seeking that the Hague-based court opens an investigative file on Raila Odinga, whom they accuse of calling masses to the streets to force a coalition government.
If you want to create anarchy, we will call it anarchy. And that is why I have said I will propose an agenda to our parliamentary group meeting next week that we write to the ICC to take measures to ensure that Raila Odinga and his sponsors do not slide our country back into anarchy.
Supreme Court ilikuambia mambo ya saba imekwisha. Si ndio? Sasa hii mtu instead aseme ukweli. Ukweli wa maandamano ni kuitisha hiyo national accord.
Na kama unataka kuleta experts, hatuna shida. Wakati tunakutana, ukileta wale experts zaidi yako, walipe na wakae na wasiongee. Wanaandikia watu yako notes, wanatupea. Na sisi tunaandikiwa na experts wetu kama tunataka, wanatupea. Lakini pesa ya mwananchi haitalipa another expert other than the National Assembly yenye iko.
The Azimio leader has, however, stuck to his guns that the bipartisan committee expected to be formed with representation from both sides must report to experts to test the seriousness of a Kenya Kwanza offer for dialogue. The Connected Summit 2023 came to a close with the public and the private sectors committing to deepen collaboration in the sector. During the summit, the government committed to review various legal and policy frameworks to make Kenya an attractive ICT destination.
The meeting came at a time when Kenya's ICT space is undergoing major disruptions. In the last 6 months, tech startups like Zumi, which is an e-commerce platform, and Kune Foods have gone bust due to what they termed as a complicated working environment. The sector is also seeing renewed interest, with the government setting up ambitious targets to deepen the sector.
And we have therefore reaffirmed the potential of ICT in creation of jobs and generation of wealth. That, ladies and gentlemen, has been placed at our disposal, and what therefore remains with us is the challenge of facilitating optimal uptake of the opportunities that lie therein.
The Ministry of Trade and Investment has announced the setting up of a tech fund that will help innovators get funding.
And you want equity investors? Ask me. I have them through the fund. This is not just a government fund. By the way, government contribution in that fund is going to be 0.0001%. The rest of the money is crowdsourced.
The government has also said the proposal to scrap the 30% domestic ownership of foreign companies requirement and VAT on export services will be tabled in Parliament in 2 weeks.
Headed into an area where we have got a liberal environment for investment. The issue of tax, withholding tax for and VAT for and actually even excise duty for export of services. We are sending proposals to Parliament through the finance bill.
Wairi Mujenga for Prime Edition.
What am I forgetting? Nini, workers paid, rent checked, mlango locked, visiting goza mzae silitoa jana la internet sorted. What is it? What am I forgetting?
Nini, nimesahau kucheza Loto Moto.
Usisahau kucheza Loto Moto. Unaweza shinda hadi milioni 2 kwenye M-Pesa. Chagua lipa na M-Pesa. Paybill number, weka 757070. Account number, weka neno Loto. Weka kiwango chochote cha pesa kuanzia shilingi 50 hadi 2000. Lipa, kisha subiri draw. Ujumbe huu umeidhinishwa na BCLP.
Gasheri insulted me on live video.
Nick needs to hear this.
I want to resign, sir.
Go think about it. If that's exactly what you want, then it's okay.
It was a bad idea trying to date her.
It is never a good idea. Never.
She's so desperate for George.
Why?
George is in Juguna, isn't he?
I'm not Joel's son.
Ini Kanairo.
I have a plan.
What's this?
Umejiuza.
Yeah. No!
Men are like kids.
Nikiendelea kukana mwanamke like kingine moja pale nitatokwa na wazimu.
Forget about the lawyers. Forget about the courts. Let's raise her together.
Welcome back. We're talking to the Principal Secretary, Labour and Skills Development, the Honourable Geoffrey Kaituko, who joins us in studio. Karibu sana, Mheshimiwa, and PS for that matter. Karibu sana.
Thank you very much for having me. Asante sana.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Probably to start us off, you could probably explain to Kenyans what your department exactly deals with when we say you're the Principal Secretary, Labour and Skills Development.
Thank you very much for that question. I think this is one of those departments that Kenyans are very familiar with because of the industrial actions which sometimes happen, and we are the ones who do the mediation. So we promote harmonious industrial actions and harmonious industrial relations between employers and workers. And you will see that on the as we move forward. Especially during the celebration for the International Labour Day. But more importantly, I think this department has been redefined, one, to connect Kenyans to opportunities within our own borders and also without, that is globally. Number two, to equip Kenyans with the skills that are required by the modern labour market. So other than promoting the traditional relations, harmonious relations, we also focused on ensuring that we reduce unemployment and also that we equip Kenyans with the necessary skills. That's why it is labor and skills development.
Let's talk about unemployment for that matter.
Yes.
In 2021, 6.6%. That was the rate of unemployment. We are looking at 2023 now. Probably about several months since you assumed the office of Principal Secretary. What is the rate of unemployment in the Republic?
The rate of unemployment in the Republic as of the last quarter is 4.9.
4.9?
Yes. But you know, this is something that has accumulated over time, owing to COVID, which made many people jobless. It rendered many Kenyans to lose their jobs, to stay at home, especially those in the private sector. Now, every year we graduate about 900,000 Kenyans from different colleges. And then only about 150,000 are absorbed into the formal sector, meaning that we have about 750,000 every year of our youth who need to be placed in the place of work for them to get gainful employment, whether it is here at home or outside this country. So indeed, yes, the unemployment is very high, but we are doing something about it. For example, you know, the whole agenda of the Kenya Kwanza government is to promote the micro and medium enterprises, small-scale enterprises, the establishment of the Hustler Fund, the policies that the government is adopting to ensure that we have many of our small businesses, you know, being able to run, even despite the situation that many people find themselves in. So investment in agriculture, in leather, in manufacturing, is going to give us even many more jobs. That is on the macro level. But to come more specifically to the State Department for Labor, one, we are involved in labor export because Kenya is a country that has labor surplus. There are countries that demand for the kind of labor that we produce here in Kenya, like, for example, nurses, doctors, accountants, lawyers, engineers. And many of those countries are countries whose population has aged. And so, like most of the Western countries, the Gulf states, and also Australia. So then, meaning that we as a country must ensure that as much as possible, we take the surplus labor to those destinations because we have surplus here in Kenya. So that is one of the ways, and we have entered into bilateral labor agreements with some of those countries. We have also proposed new bilateral labor agreements with about 8 other countries so that we are able to export this labor to
Let me get you down on the questions that you add more to it.
Yes.
Because the president speaking today in Rwanda, and I think he has spoken severally about it, about Kenya's biggest investment being the human capital.
Absolutely.
And what we will be exporting. I'm just here wondering, the number of youths that you cite as being jobless or unemployed, what are these set of skills that they need, probably locally? Let's just even focus more abroad. What kind of skills, what set of skills do they need to get these jobs and probably eradicate this number of jobless youth that we have?
Yes, if you look at the local market, the surveys that have been done, you'll find that most of the marketable skills today are technical skills. You look for electricians, plumbers, mechanics, you name them. And then IT or ICT jobs. Nurses, of course, are on demand. So you find that a lot of those jobs are really technical and vocational, artisanal jobs. And we are a country that is a typical British colony, where you produce more lawyers and more graduates in the area of humanities compared to engineers and technical persons. And that is the situation in the Far East. In the Far Eastern countries, you'll find that most people there, the educational system is designed to produce more scientists, more technicians, people who produce. So for us to have a productive economy, we have to ensure that we equip our youth with the kind of skills that are needed in this economy, and those predominantly are technical skills. And that is why there's emphasis on TVETs. Technical and vocational training institutions, because we want to produce a critical mass of people with skills that are needed by this economy and other economies as well within the region. Let me ask you a simple question. If you had a plumbing problem in your house, do you know how difficult it is to get one here?
It is.
Just here in Nairobi.
It's very difficult.
Yes. Yeah. Even an electrician. Sometimes it's very hard to get. So you find that we don't train enough people in that area, and yet, or rather in those areas, and yet those are the skills that are relevant.
Okay.
But to bring, let me bring another point here. Now, there are a lot of people who have these skills, but they have never gone to any technical institution. They are local fundis, or electricians, or mechanics. Now we've introduced what is called recognition of prior learning, RPL. Based on the experiences of these people, we get to assess them and certify them in the local TVET institution. They don't need to go to college for 3 years or to an institute for 4 years for them to be examined again. They already have the skills. So ours is to assess them, and we do that through NITA, National Industrial Training Authority. So RPL is one of the new schemes that we've introduced under the Kenya Kwanza administration. Yes.
All right. Let's get, what one would call the elephant in the room. Labor migration.
Yes.
Recently, the ministry was blacklisting employment bureaus that are taking workers to the Gulf and other areas where, of course, they've been subjected to abuse. The blacklisting of employment bureaus, is it a reactionary move by government? How does this happen under the watch of government?
Well, thank you. That's a very important question, and I know many Kenyans are waiting to get a response from me. Let me say this. Labor migration is something that has been going on for many years. But in the recent years, we have had a situation in which Kenyans in the Gulf countries have either come back dead, or some of them are they get into problems. They lose their travel documents, or they find themselves in medical conditions which they didn't have when they left home and went to those countries. Now, what I would say, we went to immediately. I was appointed together with my cabinet secretary. We took a trip to Saudi Arabia. What had happened is that for 6 years, the Ministry of Labor officials had never been allowed to go to Saudi Arabia. So the people there got neglected because there was no bilateral engagement between Labor Ministry in Kenya and the Ministry of Human Resources and Social Development in Saudi Arabia. So we went there in early January. That was hardly a month after I came into office. We met our counterparts, the ones in charge of labor, including domestic labor, because predominantly we export domestic labor to Saudi Arabia. And therefore, out of our engagement with our Saudi counterparts, I'll tell you that the situation has now stabilized. We also took a number of measures other than meeting our counterparts. We were able to take a proactive labor attaché. He's called Joseph Makar. He's the one who deals with all cases of distress from within Saudi Arabia. Now, unfortunately, Saudi Arabia is a big country. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is a big country. And one labor officer cannot be able to adequately take care of Kenyans who are very far from Riyadh.
Across the country.
Yes. So, and this is why we proposed that we needed an additional 2 labor attaches to be taken to Saudi Arabia. We went together with our diaspora counterpart. One of the innovations that Kenya Kwanza has made is creating the State Department for Diaspora Affairs. And we work very closely with them. Now, Diaspora Affairs has been able to help us in the area of attending to the welfare of Kenyans also in distress. Like, for example, when it comes to consular services, if you lost your travel documents, it is very easy for our counterparts in Diaspora Affairs to ensure that your documents are processed in good time and then you travel back home. So now we have put in place a mechanism which has enabled us really to reduce the number of issues that are there between us and Saudi Arabia. Every 2 weeks, we have a meeting with our our Saudi counterparts. It is a virtual meeting. We first started when we were there. Now we engage and we discuss everything. And then Kenya, one of the difficulties that Kenyans had in Saudi Arabia is they didn't know where to get help. So what we've told the labor attaché is to create awareness among the Kenyan communities in Saudi Arabia of where they can access help in cases of distress.
Let me ask this, PS, before we wind up, because where they can get help, they didn't know where they could get help.
Initially, yes.
Yes. But there's, a bottom line here. The amount of abuse subjected to some of the domestic workers that we take to Saudi Arabia, and it has been constant. As a government, did you get to understand the origin, or why is it that Kenyan workers, and not just Kenyan workers, probably even our neighboring countries, are subjected to such inhumane acts, in Saudi Arabia? Did you get to understand what the problem really was?
Yes, we did. We were in Saudi Arabia for a week, and we met the domestic workers. We visited them in the Sakan, and so they told us the experiences, and then we also met the Saudi authorities. What I will tell you is that indeed there may be such cases, and there are in fact those cases. And those cases, what happened previously is that they were unreported. We'll get to know them through social media. Just because people didn't have another outlet within Saudi Arabia. Now, because we have engagements and the Kenyan domestic workers in Saudi Arabia know who to report to, you'll find that the authorities are now able to respond to cases of distress among Kenyans. And so I will say that because of the measures that we've been able to put in place, a lot of Kenyans who are working in Saudi Arabia, and there are many who are thriving, a lot of those Kenyans who are in distress also are now able to access support from our mission there and from our labor attaché, who is also very proactive. And I encourage Kenyans to reach out to us, to come forward, especially those who are facing difficulties with their employers. And employers across the world, even here in Kenya, we have bad employers. All right? It's not something that is isolated to Saudi Arabia. Yeah, we also have bad employers here. And here at home, we are also trying to fix that. Yeah, so within that other case, we rely on our Saudi counterparts. Who have been very cooperative in dealing with cases that have been reported. You see, a case that has not come to our attention, we cannot be able to attend to it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I want to give you a minute on that camera to probably tell Kenyans what they should hold you to account for after 5 years as the PS for Labor and Skills Development. That camera.
All right. I would like to...
In a minute.
Yes, I would like to assure the Kenyan people that I and my team are going to do our best in terms of promoting the welfare of the Kenyan workers, both here at home and abroad. And so that is something that they can count on me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That is the PS Jeffrey Kaituko. He's a PS Labor and Skills Development. And actually, if you can just eliminate that story of exploitation and what Kenyans go through, not just in the Gulf, but other places where labor is exploited, obviously, we will hold you to account to that. Thank you very much, PS, for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
And we wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.
Asante sana. That's how we put a cap on the interview tonight. Don't go too far. We have more news lined up for you, including sports with Daniel Wahome.
daring pilot and earn by how much high you can lift the plane. The higher you fly, the higher your win. The sky is the limit. Mozart Bet.
Mongoose is on the move, riding hot.
Brace for impact.
Watangu wawili wamependa sarakasi yenu hapo majamaa. Let's scan for possible gunmen. Checking north.
Nini moja?
Wangu darana.
Uni anakusika. Ni alikusika.
Na wakufarasane na wad aku imade.
Sawa, alikuwa amegongwa kidogo lakini si
Sports News is brought to you by Mozart Bet. Kurumisha ndege. Aviator instant game. Be a daring pilot and earn by how much high you can lift the plane. The higher you fly, the higher your win. The sky is the limit. Mozart Bet.
A very good evening to you. My name is Daniel Wahome and welcome to the sport. Stuart Omondi's last-minute goal assured defending champions Tusker FC of all 3 points after thrashing AFC Leopards 1-0 in a match played at the Nyayo National Stadium. The win saw them narrow the gap between them and league leaders Gor Mahia, who were held to a goalless draw by Sofapaka to 4 points.
Planned so well, very well, and the players also play according to the way we have been training. FC is a strong team, they have good players, it's a tactical side, but we master them throughout all departments, we control all over the game. And it happened that we got a 1-0. That's good. We wanted to win.
So we didn't score, and as I told you on the last action, maybe we lost some concentration. But during the second half, we had some good situation, and we were not efficient. So after we have been punished.
Now, it's all systems go ahead of this year's edition of the Kenya Open Chess Tournament, set to be held from the 6th of April to the 11th of April at the Sarit Center. This event was officially launched on Wednesday with Indian Grandmaster Siram Jha and South African International Master Anza Lobsha being some of the big names taking part.
Indian Grandmaster Siram Jha has expressed his excitement of touring Kenya for the first time and admitted that he aims to train and challenge the Kenyan team.
I hope the tournament will be a great success for the local African chess, I believe, in general, because in whole of African continent, I believe we have only 2 grandmasters in the entire continent.
Jha also added that the event will go a long way to help players get grand and international masters norms in a continent that has less than 5 grandmasters.
I know chess is popular in Kenya because I was reading some time back in the Kenyan National Championship, the first prize was a car. Yeah, even in India I have never seen that a car is being given for the first prize, which is a big advertisement for chess. So,
in my experience, this has been most probably one of the strongest, biggest and strongest, meaning the strength come with the numbers, and the best prize fund I've ever seen on the continent of Africa so far.
Chess Kenya President Bernard Wanjala said so far 450 players have registered for the event from 24 federations.
This is the first time we are having high-level players to participate in Kenya Open. And we are excited because we have been looking forward to give our players, or local players, an opportunity to play high-quality players. And in chess, we talk about grandmasters.
He also appealed to the sponsors to come on board and support to bridge some budget deficits being experienced by the organizers.
We have very many visitors, and I wish that along the way they will have also an opportunity to appreciate and visit some of the parts of our country and appreciate our heritage.
For Prime Edition Sports, I'm Daniel Mwendwa.
Now, the national wheelchair basketball team continued with their training Wednesday at the Nyayo National Stadium as they aim to select a team that will represent Kenya in the national qualifiers for the All-Africa Games in Tanzania. The forthcoming competition has attracted 4 teams, namely Ethiopia, Rwanda, Tanzania and Kenya, and will be held from the 5th to the 8th of May this year.
We are also preparing for these qualifiers. We'll immediately after team selection, we'll have a rest of 1 week, then we'll come back for an intensive training because we are hoping to qualify both teams, men and ladies, for All Africa Games.
So we've been working on the defense and the offense, and mostly the shootings, because we played very well, but we were beaten because of the defense side. So most of the time we always come back and train on defense and shooting. We've done our best, and yes, we expect to qualify and represent our country in All African Games.
Well, that's the sport for tonight, but don't go away because we're bringing you quarterfinal number 4 of the DFB Pokal immediately after this. After the shock that Bayern Munich got last night, tonight, SC Freiburg, Red Bull Leipzig, the defending champions, are up against Borussia Dortmund. 9:45 p.m. is the kickoff time. My name is Daniel Wahome.
Sports News was brought to you by Mozart Bet.
Nafasi yako ya kuwa mdosi wako. Jiunge na washindi